When I hear that someone is a diplomat, I'm thinking about James Bond, suits, cutting ribbons, meeting presidents, going to events.
Did you think? I mean, part of it's true, like the shootings and going by plane, jumping off a parachute. No, just kidding.
Welcome to another episode of YanaTV, where we have heart-to-heart conversations with movers and shakers of Asia. And today we have a truly unusual and very interesting guest. David Bachmann is Austrian Trade Commissioner for Singapore. And we are going to talk about the life of a diplomat. David, thank you so much for showing up in the studio today. When I hear that someone is a diplomat, I'm thinking about James Bond, suits, cutting ribbons, meeting presidents, going to events. Is that what the life of a diplomat is?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Yana. And I mean, to start with that, I think it's less glorious than you might imagine. And you think, I mean, part of it's true, like the shootings and going by plane, jumping off a parachute. No, just kidding. I mean,
you just got me here. You know, I was believing it.
I mean, just to tell you, I mean, we just had a conference with 250 participants in Singapore, and it was really hard work for over a year, working weekends, working late every evening, at the same time receiving Austrian companies, advising them. So that's the less glorious part of it. So it's really hard work in the office. But then, of course, you also have cocktail receptions, you have dinners, you have to go out, you have to meet people. I mean, our job is a lot to interact with people, to speak to people, and to build a network. Because after all, we are serving our country with our network that we build up and provide this network to whoever needs it coming from Austria, and also vice versa. It's a bit also, if you have that, let's say, if you have 1 week where every evening you have an evening reception, believe me, after the third evening reception, you're done. You feel like...
You really don't want to have any more receptions.
I don't want to have the fourth one.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember a nice story. I mean, especially in Singapore, everything is about fine dining and if people from abroad come. So I think I had... I don't know, 3 or 4 days in a row, fine dining lunch and fine dining evening, which of course was also work because, you know, I talk to people, it's meeting business persons. And then on the 4th day, I had a journalist who was completely excited. We went in Trust Street to a nice restaurant. He said, "Oh, this is so fantastic, so great, you're so lucky." And I was like, well, honestly, I'm fed up with that stuff already. So, you know, this sounds a bit, how to say, over the top, but it really feels like, no, I just want to have my peace.
Right. So maybe not very boring, but not too exciting. Something in between. I get it. I get it.
Our work as a trade commissioner is bringing together business people, you know, helping Austrian companies setting foot in Singapore, helping them getting over obstacles, helping them finding the right business partners. And also once they're here and they face problems, being the troubleshooter for them. And I mean, this can be from, I don't know, my business partner hasn't paid me, please help us. I mean, whatever trouble there is, it's like a one-stop shop. We try to simply make our companies happy and in the end, help Austrian companies getting more internationalized. I mean, for Austria, it's, I would say, 60% of all our jobs depend on our international, let's say, about exports and internationalization. And that's where our companies need us also. And if you look at the structure of the Austrian economy, it's mostly SMEs, and they often don't have the financial and also the manpower to have offices all over the world. So we are their office in principle, I would say.
That sounds like a very difficult job. So thank you for doing the job. Actually, I appreciate that. And I know that before Singapore, you have also been at other postings. So what were the places that you have lived and worked?
Well, I started in Sweden, in Stockholm, and where I was sent to because I declared I never want to go to Scandinavia. So that's when they said, okay, let's see how you're gonna work there. And and it was good, because after that I lost the fear of any posting where I said, I don't want to go there. So the continuous posting was Stockholm, Sweden, then Lisbon, Portugal, Mexico City in Mexico, Tripoli in Libya, and now Singapore. Let's say before Singapore, I was 5 years in Vienna in Austria, and before that was Libya. Yeah, 6 years in Libya.
Any interesting stories about Libya? How was life in Libya, especially diplomat life?
I mean, Libya had everything. I mean, first of all, it's very close to Europe, so you feel the European culture there also from the ancient Greeks in the East and the Romans in the West. It's a really fantastic country. You had safety, you had no pollution, few cars. But let's say it was I would say two postings in one posting, because I was there during the time of Gaddafi, so that was the time I just described. And then I was there also during the revolution. I drove out the last Austrians over the land border, and we had to evacuate. That's the James Bond part, exactly.
So there is a James Bond part. I knew it.
I was there also during NATO bombardment in Tripoli, and then came the part where Libya was in mayhem. There were the different fractions fighting each other, and you woke up in the morning to some bomb explosions, or you heard they blew up at that time. I remember the French embassy was blown up, the U.S. ambassador was killed. So it was really a rough time.
I can imagine.
I've been living there 2.5 years. The family had to leave at that time, so I was really there on my own. But it's like with everything, when you live, you wonder sometimes how people can live take these days in Afghanistan. And if you ask them, they say, well, it's normal life here. Let's say in Afghanistan, many people tell me, well, that's normal life, or in many parts of sub-Saharan Africa. And this is what I felt there also, that even the worst surrounding after a couple of months feels like that's your home, and that's simply normal.
And it's normal. Can you imagine?
You hear shootings at night, and I realized it then when I was already towards the end of my posting, that I had the director general of the large, well, actually the only oil company in Austria came for a visit, and I had a lunch at my place. And at that time, everybody came with their personal protection and protected cars. So they came to my place, and so then the bodyguards came to me at one moment and said, Mr. Bachmann, what's going on there? There are two guys with a rifle next door. And, they look like, camouflaged and everything. I said, oh, no, that's just the guys from the 37th Brigade, They're the snipers are just looking towards the other brigade if they find something.
So it's normal.
Yeah.
That's what you were trying to say. Those are normal people, don't worry.
Exactly, they're just snipers,
They're just doing their job, yes. like in everyday life.
Yeah, for you it feels normal, but you have to watch out also for your family. I remember at that time, my kids, they were at that time something like 6, 8, 10 years old. So the oldest one was around 10 or 11 years. And at one point he gave me something, because I was often in Vienna then. I commuted like every, I would say, second, third weekend. And one weekend he painted the flowers for me and gave it to me and said, that's for you, Daddy. And said, oh, that's very nice, Lucas. He said, yeah, that's kind of an amulet for you, so that you come back alive. A 7-year-old child, that's really where I think, well, maybe that's a bit too much, because I also got abducted there. And I remember also after the abduction, it was that I called a very close friend there. There were not so many Austrians there, but one Austrian was there. And I told him what happened, because the brigade, after 2 days, they let me go. But they beat me up a bit, but I'm still, still okay. And then I called him and I told him, listen, Stefan, this and that happened. I have to ask you now, do you think this is something strong now, or is it still within our normal life here? He said, no, I think that's pretty bad. It sounds not very wise, but it's always like that. You yourself, you think you're never gonna die. For you
People
yourself,
often think this.
yes, you think you're
Yeah.
invincible
Yeah.
until you die. And it's only others who can tell you, well, listen, this is really, you're in danger. You have to,
you're in a danger zone, right?
And you have to get out. So, and this is what happened then. And yeah, I mean, I got out and I'm sitting here today.
And you moved to Singapore, probably one of the, definitely much safer country.
So after Libya, I became part of our management team. And yeah, I'm sure this was due to the fact that you simply, you show up
you
there.
Survived.
And you survived.
In a difficult country, in a difficult time, So, yes, listening to you, I'm sort of getting confirmation that life of a diplomat is definitely not as glamorous as people often think about. And maybe it's what you said, depends on the posting and depends what you do. But I mean, absolutely, there could be a real life danger. And then also if you're a family man, which you are, and then as a parent, you have to communicate with your kids and how they feel about it and they grow up. And so when you came to Singapore, I assume that also children probably came here and continued education here as a father. And it's not just for diplomatic families. I mean, it's any expat family that moves around with children and then have to deal with kids growing up in different schools and changing friends all the time, going to different cultures, maybe languages also. How was your experience of dealing with that?
I think it's very difficult with children. I mean, first of all, also this sounds very glamorous, right? You go abroad, your kids are abroad, they're in international schools, they grow up with different languages. And then once the kids are grown up, you feel like, okay, so where do the kids belong to? So also here in Singapore, or wherever it is, in many places of the world, you have friends. Let's say here also you have many couples, they're both Austrians, and the kids, they don't have to do anything with Austria anymore because they've been growing up in Australia, Singapore. They say, well, we only go back for holiday, for skiing maybe, or for summer holiday. But in principle, we're whatever, Singaporeans or Australians. So it's very difficult to, in this surrounding, to give the kids roots.
Yeah.
And I mean, altogether, if you look now at the oldest one, he has been abroad for, well, altogether, I think 8 years, 10 years. The rest of the time they've been in Austria. They're branded Austrians. And I think this is important because if you don't have roots, if you don't have one country where you belong to, you always wander around in life. You search for where is your home. And I'm sure you also know many people, many examples where they change from one place to the other, and in the end they're not happy anywhere. They keep searching. I mean, for schooling, they always went to the French school, which also gives them the stability. Wherever we are, there's always a French school, and that's your
like a little world inside the world,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, it's very interesting because so you're saying that sort of children moving, right, when they're young, and it's like a forming age, and maybe it's hard to settle down and form the roots when you grow up. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I grew up in one country and I went through the full education system there, university, it's just one country, and I left when I was 21. And then I traveled for the last, 19, 20 years. I traveled all over the world, lived in different countries, and I still feel, I'm not sure what is my identity. So, it's kind of interesting. I identify more as a Singaporean right now.
Do you? Okay.
I'm also Singaporean right now, right? So it's interesting for me listening to you that I find with the identity, it's a tricky one. It sort of also depends where then you end up living a big part of your adult life. And I heard it from other diplomats who are my friends, that when you live this life, it's also very important to go home from time to time, like for your own compass. That, right? So that you also remember, okay, I'm from Austria, and this is how we do things, and then you go away again.
I think it's absolutely necessary to go back from time to time, and that's also why normally between the postings we are ordered back and we stay for a couple of years in Austria. Of course, it is important so that okay, what is the culture of your organization, what has changed there, what is happening in Austria, and especially in Singapore. I mean, you're far away. You have 6 in winter, 7 hours time difference. And I mean, this coming back to the 24/7, that's also interesting in Asia now. in Mexico, you woke up and already sometimes at 6 in the morning, you had calls from Europe, you know, people wanting something. And then in the afternoon, slowly it faded out. And here it's the opposite. In the morning, it's like everybody's
sleeping
in Europe, right? So it's starting slowly. And then, I mean, people call me sometimes, I mean, from HQ, you know, get calls at 1 in the morning. They ask me, what time is it with you? I said, well,
never mind, I mean, just tell me what you want.
Are you still awake? I said, well, obviously.
Yes, obviously.
So here it's really, here it's always getting very late in the Western Hemisphere. You have to adapt also your routine, your daily life, and be prepared. For instance, here in Asia, that principally, especially when it's a time where I have many visits and delegations, that they don't have a free evening, because that's when people expect. And you know, mostly in Austria, I mean, I would say mostly, but I would say you also get this cliche that they think, oh, well, he's in Singapore, oh, well, warm, sunny all year round. Yeah, I mean, we can call him at 7, 8 in the evening, and I mean, anyhow, he's only lying on the beach. And it depends on the destination. In Tripoli, nobody asked me about if I was lying on the beach, especially during the 2.5 years of the civil war.
I didn't actually, I never thought about it. So thank you for saying it. This is like an interesting, you know, little insight what people think. Yeah. So when you come to Singapore, I'm just curious, what was your first impression?
Well, I came to Singapore already at the age of 21, the first time.
Right, so it was not the first time.
And that impression of that time was you came here, stayed for 1 day because you went to Orchard Road, bought the latest camera model and the latest lenses for or your electronic equipment for half price than it was in Europe. And then you continued to whatever, Bali, Thailand. In the 80s, 90s, Singapore was I would say, very much British expat community here. People would really, like this cliche, sit around in Raffles, have their gin tonic.
A bit more colonial, if I may use this word.
Very much, I would say. And this has changed very much. It has become very Singaporean. I call it the bubble, you know, the Marina Bay bubble. And this is also my impression. Actually, when I was the family, we decided to come to Singapore. I was in a restaurant that I mean, might know, level 33 in the financial center, and you look down on the Bay Area, and you're like, "Wow, that's a city, really."
What a view, right?
Yes. How glamorous! How you know that's a real city. And then you know, you come here and you realize, I mean, that's a big show, right? And I mean, also coming here, I mean, that's the real Singapore, right? Bukit Merah, and that's where you have HDBs, that's where you have hawker stores. And then I realized that, okay, I went into the trap.
You were sold the idea.
I mean, this Singapore exists, of course, this modern and, you know, fancy and glittery, but also, I mean, I would say even 90% of Singapore is different. And so I experienced this Singapore slowly. And also during COVID, you remember, in 2.5 years, you couldn't go anywhere. So you discovered every little corner of Singapore. And then you really discover what Singapore is like, and all the social phenomena here, and how people are really living. And that they're not going fine dining every lunch and every dinner. I mean, most people couldn't afford also here. So that was my kind of or the
so it's
thing.
Not just like a diplomat job. Life in Singapore is not always as glamorous as people outside of Singapore might think.
Yes.
Right? It's interesting. From a business point of view, so since, right, Austrian Trade Commissioner, right, helping businesses coming here, I'm just curious, like with all your experience and helping actually those people to integrate, set up companies and, you know, and establish here, how is that from a business perspective? Like coming to Asia and maybe especially to Singapore and opening company here and establishing maybe headquarters, like what have you noticed?
Well, first of all, we have Singapore is really the hub for Austrian companies in Asia, especially these days now with China being a bit troublesome, and simply the rise of Singapore, right? Getting a lot of attraction from ASEAN countries, then the I would say, yeah, Hong Kong is getting less attraction. Many companies also come from Hong Kong. So I would say that's the place to be in Asia. And for the Austrian companies to open a bank account, if you're a foreign company, it takes a year. And that's why people are, oh, wow, really? That takes so long. And so a lot of red tape there. But on the other hand, of course, many things are very easy. And yeah, they appreciate the transparency, no corruption, a country that is has a high growth rate, especially if compared to other parts of the world these days. But the big part is where, I mean, the costs, you know, how am I financing that? And I mean, you know, like property prices have skyrocketed.
Especially since 2020.
Yes, exactly. COVID had a really hard impact there. I'm sure you remember there were many teachers here and, you know, simple middle management or the middle class from abroad working here, making money for a couple of years, then going back again and having saved quite a considerable amount. That's not possible anymore with the property prices and simply, yeah, in general, Singapore being an expensive place. And this is the biggest challenge for a company, seeing that Singapore is a very innovative country. It offers a lot of possibilities, but it doesn't come for free. So you need to be, you need to be willing to invest in that and know that this will cost you something.
The final question for today. Since we talk a lot about family and kids, so when you look at your children, I mean, they are young adults, and the future ahead of them and where you feel the world is heading, what message would you like to share with them and everyone who is like them?
I think I would, but not only I would, but I also did give them 3 messages or kind of 3 directions.
Okay, please tell us.
Yeah, I mean, the first one I would say, get into art.
Into art?
Art.
Okay.
Art. I think art is one of the most important things in life. Be it whatever, it can be music, it can be architecture, it can be paintings. Just get yourself in this just vast area of life. And it can be so rewarding, it can help you in difficult situations, it can produce a lot of joy, and it's simply a field that never ends.
I agree
Simply
with you.
have a very enjoyable life with art in your mind and living with it. And I am very happy that I would say 2 at least of the 3 have found also their art and where they got into it. And because we also always took them to places where they found art. The second thing is be aware that in the end, your body is your ultimate weapon. And this means invest in your health, watch your body, see the signs when your body goes weak or collapses, and be aware that this is your most tangible asset you have. So that would be the second advice. And last but not least, be a hedonist. Enjoy nice things in life. Go to fancy restaurants, go to nice hotels.
Enjoy life to the fullest as much as you can.
Exactly.
Experience it. This is what we're talking about. Experience it.
And also, you know, there's always, you find your level in life where say, oh, this is what I can finance. You have $400 and you want to go to a hotel. Would you spend 4 nights in a $100 hotel or 2 nights in a $200 hotel? What would give you more joy? And I mean, for my point of view, I think the 2 nights in the $200 hotel would give you more joy. You can, you know, you can alterate that to $50, $1,000, depending.
$1,500 and
depending on what your possibilities are. But I simply want to say, try to get the nicer things out of life. I don't know, those 3 advices are completely different from read and be humble or whatever, but I think that's...
I think you really called that You know, so I think that your kids are really lucky to have you as a father, and I'm sure they're wonderful children. And David, thank you so much for joining us today. It was very unusual and insightful interview. And to our audience, thank you for joining us and for watching. It was David Bachmann on YanaTV, and we would love to hear from you guys. Do we have like any other business people? Do we have diplomats who are watching us? So please let us know in the comment. Let's connect. You can connect with David, of course. We're going to provide all the links. And I would like to say a special thank you to the Muse Studio for hosting YanaTV. We love being here. And the most important, remember to subscribe to the channel and share this episode with friends. And I see you next time. Okay. And do I pronounce it correctly? It is David Bachmann. No, it's not correct. So
yeah,
how do I say the last
Bachmann.
name? Ah, Bachmann.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, Bachmann.
Yeah, you're Russian, you should.
Right,
I mean, you know how to, yes.
Yes, yes, okay, Bachmann.